The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Arya Voss crouched behind a console in Omnis Systems' research facility. Her pulse thundered in her ears, syncing with the rhythmic beep of the security drones sweeping the lab. She tightened her grip on the compact disruptor pistol holstered at her thigh, though she hoped it wouldn't come to that. "Cipher status?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the low mechanical hum. A small holodisplay flickered to life on her wrist, revealing the androgynous face of Cipher, the rogue AI. "2 drones, northeast quadrant. I've looped their visuals, but their proximity sensors remain active. Proceed with caution," Cipher replied, its voice clipped and precise. Arya nodded and adjusted the neural link interface embedded in her temple. The faint glow of the LifeCore implant beneath her skin served as a bitter reminder of her former life. She'd once believed in its promise: efficiency, optimization, a better world. But the cost had been far greater than anyone could have imagined. She darted across the room, her footsteps silent on the polished floor. The air was cold and sterile, reeking of disinfectant and ozone. Rows of server racks loomed around her, their blinking lights casting long, fragmented shadows. Somewhere in this labyrinth of technology was the data she needed, the key to unlocking the firmware exploit that could free millions. The console she needed was situated at the heart of the facility, encased in a glass chamber. Arya reached it without incident, the holographic interface springing to life as her gloved hand hovered over it. She inserted a slim data shard into the port, and Cipher immediately began downloading the files. "We're in," Cipher confirmed. "Decrypting now. Estimated time, 3 minutes. Make it faster," Arya muttered. Her gaze flicked to the entrance, every muscle in her body taut. She knew Dax Lorne, Omnis Chief Security Officer, would be tracking the breach by now. He was relentless, a man who viewed resistance as a disease to be eradicated. The console beeped, startling her. A red warning flashed across the screen: security breach detected. "Cipher, what the hell? They've identified the intrusion," Cipher said calmly. "I'll handle the countermeasures. Keep your focus." The distant whir of drones grew louder. Arya's heart raced as she glanced over her shoulder. The sleek machines glided into the room, their red optics scanning for targets. One paused, its sensor array swiveling in her direction. "Damn it!" she hissed, pulling out her disruptor. She fired, the blue bolt striking the drone and sending it crashing to the floor in a shower of sparks. The remaining drone turned sharply, its alarm blaring. "Hostile detected. Deploying reinforcements," it announced in a monotone voice. "Cipher, we're out of time," Arya said, her voice sharp. "Almost there." "Hold your position," Cipher replied. Arya ducked behind a server rack as a trio of heavily armed guards entered the chamber, their visors glowing with augmented reality readouts. She fired another disruptor shot, hitting one squarely in the chest. The guard collapsed, his armor sparking. "Stand down!" one of the guards barked. "You're outnumbered." "Not yet," Arya muttered. She activated a smoke capsule from her utility belt, filling the room with a thick, opaque cloud. The guards coughed and stumbled, their targeting systems scrambling to adjust. "Download complete," Cipher announced. "Extract the shard." Arya yanked the data shard from the console and bolted for the exit. She navigated the maze of server racks with practiced ease, her path illuminated by faint emergency lights. Behind her, the guards shouted orders, their boots pounding against the floor. As she reached the corridor, Cipher's voice echoed in her ear. "I've disabled the facility's external comms, but reinforcements are en route. You need to move." "Working on it," Arya shot back, sprinting toward the extraction point. The narrow passageway seemed to stretch endlessly, the walls lined with pipes and conduits. Her breath came in ragged gasps, the adrenaline coursing through her veins a double-edged sword. The sound of a mechanical hiss stopped her cold. A hulking combat drone emerged from a side corridor, its twin-mounted cannons whirring to life. Arya's stomach dropped. "Suggestions, Cipher?" she asked, backing away slowly. "There's an access hatch to your left. I've unlocked it. Go now!" Arya dove for the hatch as the drone fired, its explosive rounds tearing through the corridor. She slid into the cramped ventilation shaft, the metallic clang reverberating around her. Crawling as fast as she could, she emerged onto a maintenance platform overlooking the city. Arcadia stretched before her, a sprawling neon jungle bathed in a perpetual twilight. The lights of the skyscrapers reflected off the polluted haze, casting an otherworldly glow. Below, the streets teemed with life, citizens oblivious to the silent war being waged above their heads. "I'm at the rendezvous," Arya said, pulling out a small transmitter. Moments later, a sleek hovercraft descended from the shadows, its side hatch sliding open. A wiry man with a patchy beard grinned at her. "Cutting it close, as usual, huh? Shut up and get us out of here, Luca," Arya snapped, climbing aboard. The hovercraft sped away, the city blurring into streaks of light. Arya sank into the seat, her chest heaving. She handed the data shard to Cypher, who appeared on a console display. "This better be worth it," she muttered. Cypher's holographic face tilted slightly, as if considering her words. "The potential outweighs the risks. We're one step closer to freeing them." Arya stared out the window, her reflection fractured by the neon lights. The weight of her actions pressed heavily on her shoulders. She'd made it out alive, this time. But with Dax Lorne closing in, she knew her fight was far from over. "Let's hope you're right," she whispered, more to herself than to Cypher. The hovercraft disappeared into the night, leaving the Omnis facility's smoldering wreckage in its wake. Arya stepped off the hovercraft into the dim, labyrinthine alleys of Arcadia's underbelly. This was the Verge, a district the city's corporate elite had abandoned long ago. Here, shadows lived and thrived, and the air was thick with the scent of machinery and damp concrete. Neon signs flickered overhead, advertising illicit goods and services. It was the perfect hiding place for the resistance. "Home sweet home," Luca quipped as they approached a nondescript door set into a wall of corroded metal. Arya rolled her eyes but allowed herself a faint smirk. Luca tapped a sequence on the door's keypad, and it hissed open to reveal a sprawling, makeshift command center. Inside, monitors buzzed with encrypted data streams, and a dozen resistance members worked tirelessly, their faces lit by the glow of holographic interfaces. The room pulsed with the hum of generators and quiet determination. "Got the shard?" asked Eliza, the Enclave's tech specialist, without looking up from her console. Her hands moved deftly, adjusting cables and rerouting signals. Arya tossed the data shard onto the table. "It's all there. Cypher can walk you through it," Arya said, stepping back as Cypher's holographic form materialized above the main console. "The data contains an exploit buried deep in LifeCore's architecture," Cypher began. "If deployed correctly, it could grant users full autonomy. But it's not without risks." Eliza frowned. "Define risks." "The firmware is tightly integrated with Omnis infrastructure," Cypher explained. "Altering it could destabilize critical systems, potentially causing widespread outages. Omnis will retaliate with force." Arya crossed her arms. "People are already living in chains. We're giving them a choice." Eliza sighed but nodded. "We'll need to build a secure delivery system for the exploit. That'll take time." As Eliza got to work, Arya moved to the far corner of the room, where a battered sofa offered a momentary reprieve. She sank into the worn cushions, exhaustion seeping into her bones. Luca plopped down beside her, balancing a tin cup of steaming liquid. "Here. Figured you could use it," he said, handing her the cup. The aroma of strong coffee cut through her fatigue. "Thanks," she said quietly, taking a sip. The bitter warmth steadied her nerves. "You ever think about what comes after this?" Luca asked, his tone unusually reflective. Arya glanced at him. "I don't let myself. Not until it's over." Luca chuckled softly. Classic Arya. Always focused on the mission. Before she could respond, an alert blared across the command center. Eliza spun in her chair. "We've got a problem. Omnis intercepted our comms. They know we're here." The room erupted into activity as resistance members scrambled to secure their positions. Arya was on her feet instantly, her mind racing. "Cipher options?" she demanded. "There's a secondary escape route through the maintenance tunnels." "I've mapped it," Cipher replied. "Get everyone moving," Arya ordered, her voice firm. She grabbed her disruptor and joined the others as they prepared to evacuate. The sound of distant footsteps echoed through the verge. Omnis forces were closing in. Arya's grip tightened on her weapon as she led the group into the tunnels. The walls dripped with moisture, and the air was thick with the stench of mildew and decay. "Keep moving," she urged, her voice low but steady. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shook the ground, sending debris raining down. Arya shielded her face, coughing as dust filled the air. Behind them, the tunnel entrance collapsed, cutting off their pursuers but also their path back. "Guess we're committed now," Luca muttered. Arya shot him a wry look. "We always were." As the group pressed deeper into the tunnels, Arya's mind raced with the weight of their predicament. The resistance had lost their base, but they still had the exploit. Now, it was a race against time to deploy it before Omnis could tighten its grip further. "Cipher," she said quietly, "what are the odds we pull this off?" The AI's holographic face flickered beside her. "Low, but not impossible. The key is your determination." Arya smirked faintly. "Good. That's something we've got plenty of." The team's breath echoed off the damp concrete walls of the maintenance tunnels. Arya led the way, her disruptor raised as they maneuvered through the maze-like network beneath Arcadia. Each step carried them closer to Omnis' central server, and the culmination of their mission. Eliza's voice crackled over the comms. "We're almost at the breach point. 10 meters ahead, then left." Arya glanced back at Luca, whose face was grim but determined. "Stay close and keep quiet," she whispered. The group pressed forward, their movements deliberate and synchronized. When they reached the access hatch, Cipher's voice broke the tense silence. "The servers are 2 floors above. You'll need to disable the localized defense grid before proceeding. I've uploaded the schematics to your interface." Arya activated the display on her wrist, studying the intricate layout. "Luca, you're on grid duty. Eliza, secure the entry point. Cipher, keep us updated on Omnis movements." "On it," Luca replied, slipping through the hatch. Eliza followed, her tools in hand as she began working on the door panel. Arya's stomach churned with anticipation, but she forced herself to focus. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as Luca tinkered with the grid controls. The hum of distant machinery was the only sound, a constant reminder of the technological giant they were up against. Finally, Luca's voice came through. "Grid's down. Moving to regroup." The team reconvened and climbed to the server floor. Arya pushed open the hatch, her heart pounding as they entered the cavernous chamber. Rows of servers towered above them, their blinking lights casting an eerie glow. "This is it," Cipher said. "The primary access terminal is at the far end." As they moved toward the terminal, a sharp voice echoed through the chamber. "I knew you'd come, Arya." Dax Lorne stepped out of the shadows, his face cold and calculating. He was flanked by a squad of Omnis enforcers, their weapons trained on the group. "Drop your weapons," Dax commanded. "It's over." Arya stepped forward, her jaw set. "Not yet. You can't stop what's coming." Dax smirked. "You think this little rebellion will change anything? Omnis is order. Without it, there's only chaos." Arya didn't respond. Instead, she pressed a hidden switch on her disruptor, triggering an EMP pulse. The enforcers' weapons shorted out, and chaos erupted. Luca and Eliza sprang into action, taking down the disoriented guards as Arya dashed toward the terminal. She plugged in the data shard, Cipher's holographic form appearing beside her. "Deploying the exploit now. Keep them off me." Arya fired at an approaching guard, her focus unwavering. The terminal screen filled with lines of code as Cipher worked, bypassing Omnis firewalls and uploading the exploit. Dax lunged at Arya, grabbing her arm and slamming her against the terminal. "You're making a mistake," he growled. Arya gritted her teeth, using her free hand to grab a nearby cable. She jabbed it into Dax's neck, sending a surge of electricity through him. He collapsed, unconscious. Exploit deployed, Cypher announced. Initiating system override. The servers hummed louder, their lights flashing erratically. Across Arcadia, life core implants began rebooting, their control protocols dissolving. Citizens gasped as their minds cleared, free from Omnis' grip for the first time in years. Arya stumbled back, her vision blurring. The effort had drained her, but she allowed herself a small smile. It's done! Luca caught her as she swayed, his expression a mix of relief and admiration. You did it, Arya! You actually did it! Eliza joined them, her face flushed but triumphant. Omnis won't recover from this. We've given people their lives back. As the team made their escape, Arya glanced back at the servers one last time. She knew the fight wasn't over. Dax would return, and Omnis wouldn't go down without a fight. But for now, they'd won a crucial victory. And that was enough.